Hey guys, Bob here from Raw Strength and Muscle, and today we're going to talk about calculating your macros. I've gotten questions like this like in the past, and I've talked about it a little bit, but I got a whole bunch of like really good, really common questions. Especially excellent is this guy actually asked me on Instagram. Okay, you don't have a whole lot of, I don't get a whole lot of interaction on Instagram, so it's pretty cool that I got a question on Instagram and not on YouTube. So definitely check me out, Raw Strength and Muscle on Instagram. Follow me. I'm trying to build up and do some more day-to-day stuff there. So anyway, here's the guy's questions. Hey Bob, can you recommend a reliable link to calculate calories for beef/ground beef? I've Googled it, but the numbers are all over the place. I never know how much I'm actually eating. I have an approximate idea, of course. I also have another great question for you that I've often tried to figure out. Specifically for ground beef, do the total calories include the fat that gets rendered off in the pan? Or is the total calories for the finished burger patty on the plate minus the fat that got rendered off when it left in the pan? When I spoon that rendered fat from the pan back onto the burger patty, I always feel like I'm adding calories. Thanks, bro. Okay, so check it out. Let me just go ahead and say the most important thing when it comes to nutrition is that you are consistent, okay? That's why I'm not a big fan of, if it fits your macros and, eating like a chicken breast, 200 calories today and having a 200 calorie candy bar tomorrow. Yeah, 200 calories, but there's a massive difference in nutrients between having a chicken breast and having a candy bar. I'm also really Spartan when it comes down to cooking, okay? I enjoy my food, but I'm not somebody who's like, I'm gonna have filet mignon today and I'm gonna have beef stroganoff tomorrow, whatever. I basically eat the same meals every single day so that I'm consistently eating the same things. Now, the point about being consistent is even if your numbers, your, fat, protein, carbohydrates, total calories, etc., even if they are off, okay? If you go consistently with the same wrong calories, the same wrong macros, and something happens to your body, like you start getting fat or, your muscles aren't recovering, okay, well, maybe I need to increase the amount of protein that I'm getting, or maybe I need to decrease my calories or my fat or whatever, okay? So what I'm basically saying is, the most important thing is that you start with something and you consistently use that number, okay? So one of the things that this guy didn't necessarily ask, but one of the things that I'm a big fan of is, for instance, measuring all of my food raw, okay? Let's say you take, a chicken breast, okay, and you grill it or you boil it or you bake it or you fry it or whatever. You're going to have a different weight when you are done. Okay, it's not really that big of a deal with with chicken breast, but basically, some fat might leak away or some water might leak away. A lot of it has to do with water. Depending upon how dehydrated your food is after you're done cooking it, you're going to have a different weight. But if I take 200 grams of raw chicken, it's going to be 220 calories, 3 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbs, 47 grams of protein. It's going to be the same. It's just, like I said, if I, cook it in a way that it's all dried up, it's going to weigh less than if I boil it. It's still, very moist, okay? But it's still going to be the same amount of raw material, no pun intended, that I'm actually putting into the meal, okay? So everything that I use, I make sure that I weigh it raw, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about this, okay? A reliable link to calculate calories for beef/ground beef. I've Googled it. The numbers are all over the place. Okay, so this is the deal. There is no such thing as ground beef. Okay, ground beef means that it is ground up meat that comes from a cow. Okay, it does not necessarily mean that it's a specific muscle group, a certain specific type of meat from cow, a specific macronutrient amount, okay? So I could go ahead to the store and I could find 3% lean ground beef, 70% lean ground beef, 80% lean ground beef, okay? And they are all going to have different amounts of fat, protein, and total calories for a certain weight, okay? Number one. Number two, okay, the reason why this is because one might be ground beef is probably going to be the cheapest thing you can find. It's just all the crap any type of muscle that comes from a cow can be thrown together and called ground beef. So it's like really hard to be consistent with this. I personally use ground chuck. 80% lean ground chuck is what I always use when I use ground beef. Okay, I know exactly how many grams of carbs, fat, protein, how many calories are in 4 ounces, how many are in 8 ounces, how many are in 10 ounces. Okay, so I always use 80% lean ground chuck. Okay, like if you use ground chuck or ground sirloin, you're going to have different amounts of calories, different amounts of protein, carbs, and fat. You're going to have different macros and different calories if you go from 70 to 80 to 93% lean ground chuck. Even though it's the same muscle, it's still going to be completely different. So like I said, the bottom line is make sure that you are very specific. If you're talking about chicken, you've got the same thing going on. Okay, my girlfriend, for instance, really likes chicken thighs because they're fattier. They have more fat. They have more calories. That is her preferred chicken meat. I like chicken breast because if I'm going to be eating chicken, I want protein and practically nothing else. Okay, so I use skinless, boneless chicken breasts. So if somebody were to say, what are the macros and calories for chicken? You're going to get a different answer from her than you're going to get from me. Okay, but if you're specific and you're like chicken breast, chicken thigh, now you're going to get better. Ground chuck, ground sirloin, 80%, 70% lean. You're going to get a better answer. So like I said, don't look at like ground beef. You want to look at the percentage and the cut of the ground beef, and then you're going to get a much more consistent answer. Now, speaking of consistent answers, in terms of the link that I use, I actually go and I have used like MyFitnessPal or Fat Secret, just Googled basically, the different types of cuts, and you're going to be pretty consistent. If I use website A and website B to get boneless, skinless chicken breast raw, there might be like a 1 gram difference in between them of whatever macro, or there might be a couple calories different, maybe, but they're pretty much the same. If you're going to get specific, chicken thighs, chicken breasts, raw, cooked, if you basically just use raw and a certain cut, you're going to get pretty consistent numbers. But what I personally do is I actually use the package. So if I go ahead and I pick up a package of chicken breast, I actually look at the package, okay, that it came in. If I get a package of 80% lean ground chuck, I look at the package that it came in, okay, and that's the number I use. That is, but like I said, it's going to be basically the same thing you'll get from the internet if you say the cut, and the percentage. What I really suggest you look at the package for is like ground turkey, ground chicken, because once again, what part of the chicken is this? Chicken breast is really pure protein, okay? But you might look at ground chicken or ground turkey, for instance, and it might be completely different than if you had like a chicken breast compared to like ground chicken, okay? So make sure you look at the package on something like this. It's important for like ground chicken, ground turkey. It's also important for eggs, okay? Small, medium, large, extra large. I like to have extra large eggs, and there's going to be a significant difference because if you have like 5, let's say 5 eggs, 6 eggs, okay, and there's a 2 or 3 gram protein per egg difference between small and extra large, now you're looking at a difference of like, 10, 12 calories or more, grams of protein or more difference between the two. So you really need to be careful. Like I said, I always use XL eggs, extra large eggs, and I look at the package that the eggs came in and say, what does this, seller specifically say is the amount of, macros and total calories per egg for this brand, for this size, okay? And like I said, I always try to use the same brand. I always try to use the same size. Basically, I only eat a few different foods, okay? I have whole milk and or heavy cream, extra large eggs, egg whites, liquid egg whites, chicken breast, and 80% lean ground chuck, cottage cheese, whole fat cottage cheese. And like I said, once you get down to like basic foods and you get very specific like that, you're going to find out that it really is like, that it really is easier to get like consistent numbers as opposed to saying like, ground beef or 80% lean ground chuck, chicken or raw, boneless, skinless chicken breast. Okay. Get more specific and you get more consistent answers. And like I said, specifically use the same brand and specifically use the macros that are actually put on the container. So now I have another great question for you. Specifically for ground beef, do the total calories include the fat that gets rendered off in the pan? Okay, I feel like I'm adding calories when I add the fat back on. When I make my ground beef, I always use it as I always use the raw weight, and I always use the fat. Okay. When I cook it in a pan, okay, fry it in a pan, I push it off into a plate, and I actually pour the fat back on, okay? Because like I said, I just deal with the raw weight, so there's, the fat is included, okay? It's okay whichever one you use, if you pour it off or if you use the fat, but you need to remain consistent. The problem happens when you go for one day with the extra fat, one day without the extra fat, or God forbid you go like 3 days with the extra fat and then a couple days without, and your calories are gonna be all over the place. So I always keep the fat in. As a matter of fact, right now I'm having one meal a day of 8 ounces of 80% lean ground chuck, okay, and a half a cup of cottage cheese. And what I do is I actually bake the ground beef in a little like glass Tupperware. Okay, it's like made by Tupperware, okay, but it's glass. I can actually put it in as like a little casserole dish, turn off the oven when it's done cooking, and when it cools off, I put a plastic lid on top, okay, and I add the cottage cheese. And then when I go ahead to eat it, I just, heat it up for a minute, mix it around a little bit, heat it up for a minute, and then I'm done. I'm eating it, okay? And yes, I do eat all of the cottage cheese with a spoon. I do eat all of the beef with a spoon, and then I actually consume the fat. Okay, like I actually use the spoon, or if nobody's watching, which usually is what I do, I'll just actually drink the little bit of the fat out. And I know some people are going to say this is disgusting, and I'm going to say you're not fat adapted, you're not really into keto, okay? Because the reason why I'm actually having, the fat is because that's my energy source. The reason why I'm having 80% lean ground chuck is because the calories are that much higher, because the fat content is that much higher, okay? When I go ahead and I have chicken, I'm trying to get pure protein. I might throw in, something as a fat source, but I'm trying to get as pure protein as possible. So if I move up from chicken to ground chuck, if I move up from eggs and egg whites to just whole eggs, I'm actually trying to increase the calories, increase the fat. I need them. And in that case, like I said, of course, I want to have all of the fat and all of the grease, okay? So if you are, for some reason, feeling like bloated or like I don't feel like eating the grease, you probably shouldn't be eating that many calories and that much fat. So I would like drop down the fat by getting a leaner cut of beef, or by getting, like I said, going back to chicken, okay? Because like I said, the reason why I up it from chicken to beef is always because I need the calories, I need the fat. And another question that was not asked right here, but I've been asked before, and since I'm answering these macro questions, let's get on it, is should you consider the amount of grease you're using? Okay, I do not consider the grease that I add to the pan. So basically what I'm doing is, if I bake chicken, I'll just spray olive oil, or better coconut oil, into the casserole dish, and I'll bake the chicken, okay? If I'm gonna fry some chicken, I'll just spray some into a frying pan, okay? If I'm going to make eggs and egg whites or whatever, I'll probably use like something like a spray. If I'm making like more of a fatty meal where I have like, a whole bunch of eggs, whole eggs, and I have like maybe some ground beef in there, or maybe some cheese added in there because I need the fat, then I'll actually use butter. And the way I'll do that is I'll just throw the butter in, okay? I do not add the butter that I use to my macros, okay, to my calories. But once again, like I said, I always use the same amount. So like, let's say I'm adding in 50 calories in this one meal. That's 50 calories a day, I mean, 50 calories are going to be, there's going to be a variation anyway. I might lose 50 calories somewhere else. I might have 50 calories extra in here. It's going to be basically the same. And I'm not going to be using a different amount. I'll be using about the same sliver of butter every single day. So, you know, it's always, the important thing is that it's consistent. The important thing is that it's consistent. So, like I said, if I spray some oil in, I don't count that. If I use some butter, I do not count that towards my macros. That's another question that I've gotten in the past before. But anyway, like I said, I appreciate this question. Guys, follow me on Instagram at Raw Strength and Muscle. I'm really trying to put in a lot more daily kind of stuff in there. So definitely, like I said, go ahead and hit me up. If you have a question, you can hit me up just as well in Instagram. Definitely follow me there. Definitely follow me here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Anyway, thank you very much, Tino Demetrio, for the question. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.